free agency. We're going to get our first look ahead to free agency. The memes are out there. Podcast meme guy, he knows we love the offseason more than the season sometimes. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's go over the PFF top 100 free agents is out. It's over at PFF.com. You and I did a lot of the writing on there. And then shout out to Brad Spielberger.
Yeah.
He is our new cap expert analyst who has come in. He's created a little contract projection system to kind of like get guys in a range based off past performance and what they're going to get paid. He's put some predictions in there. So go to PFF.com and check out our top 100 free agents. And we're going to continue to add to that list as we go. So let's just start with, for today, a general overview of free agency, where the strengths and weaknesses lie, who the top players are, and what people can expect once free agency starts. If you go by the list, though, in the top 10, quarterback Dak Prescott sitting at the top, 3 wide receivers with Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay. It's a great safety class. There's some good offensive tackles. And then there's probably going to be a lot of franchise tags that ruin this list shortly.
Destroy it.
But it looks like Dak is the prize of the free agent class, and then some of these high-end wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible free agency class because I think the top is very strong. Obviously, Dak Prescott, the wide receivers are really good. You mentioned all the positions. I think the top end of it is actually a pretty good group and a lot of very good players that will be attractive to a lot of teams to fill some holes. But it falls off really quickly. Like, once you clear that top tier of players, this becomes a pretty crappy class, like a fairly desperate group of players that if you didn't get that first group, you are desperately hunting for these bargain, free agents in the second tier that will be there. But in order to get to those, you have to navigate this minefield of like fool's gold to get to them.
It's kind of happens every year, though. It's just, when does that drop off start when we're ranking free agents?
And I think it's a lot earlier this year than usual.
Yeah, and the challenge is you always hit a point in free agency where it's like, well, this guy was good 2 out of the last 3 years, or 1 out of the last 3 years, or he has an injury concern. And you always hit this point, whether it's 30th on the list or 40th on the list or wherever it is, where guys start to have question marks, right? Receiver class, though, Chris Godwin of the Bucs, I think they almost have to franchise him. Allen Robinson of the Bears, we'll see what happens with him. Kenny Golladay, all of the Lions wide receivers are free agents. If they let Kenny Golladay walk, I mean, they need 4 wide receivers. Amendola's a free agent, Marvin Jones. They almost certainly have to franchise Kenny Golladay, I think. So these high-end wide receiver names could be off the board pretty quickly. And then Trent Williams, a free agent for the 49ers. He was our highest-graded tackle in the NFL this year. His third different season in which he was the highest-graded tackle. Trent Williams, 2013, 16, and now 2020. So he'll be one of the top prizes because the drop-off at tackle is pretty steep as well. There's some solid offensive tackles, but no elite players like Trent Williams. What about the safety class of all the positions? I think this was one of the hardest for us to rank. There's 5 in the top 25 for us this year, just at safety. And I think, it's a time in the NFL where those versatile safeties are quite important.
Yeah, and it's a good group. Justin Simmons is one of the best free safeties in the NFL, and for a free safety, makes a ton of plays in the box. Like, doesn't just drop off, play Greg Williams defense 25 miles away from the line of scrimmage. He will defend the deep middle, but he's also really quick to come up and be a part of the run game, be a part of run fits, be a part of shallow stuff underneath them. Then you got Anthony Harris for Minnesota, who'd been playing phenomenally well until this year, hasn't had a great season. But safety is one of those volatile positions, right, where it's really hard to maintain an absurdly good level year on year on year.
Like legit free safety skills and ball skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And free safety skills, and also has shown within that Minnesota scheme that he can play those sort of split safety, 2 high safety looks and be good there as well. Those 2, I think, are a tier above anybody else. But then you've got Marcus Williams, Marcus May, John Johnson, Xavier Woods. Like, there's a lot of talent at safety.
I love Marcus May and what he's done with the Jets, because when Jamal Adams was there, he was more of the free safety. Jamal Adams goes to Seattle. May showed he could play in the box, cover the slot a little bit, makes a ton of plays. The Jets have already said they want to bring him back. And then John Johnson, I mean, if he didn't get injured in the middle of this, he's got 3 pretty much elite years, or high-end years at safety. And as much as I love to just commend the Rams scheme, they like to mix it up with their 2 high safeties on the back end, and John Johnson makes that work. And then even beyond that, I think safety is the deepest position, safety and receiver when it comes to free agency here. I expect a lot of those receivers, though, like I said, to get franchise tagged. So I would just keep an eye on the safety market. You've got guys like Malik Hooker and Keanu Neal, former first-round picks who have battled injuries, but could be really good reclamation projects. Neal's played this year and he's been fine. Hooker, I think there's more in the tank. Technically, Earl Thomas is a free agent again. Yeah. So he didn't make our top 100, but there's a point where we might just throw him out there and say, look, he's out there if you still want to bring him back with all the off-field stuff. So I think the safety position is something to keep an eye on.
Hooker and Keanu Neal, interestingly, would make a really intriguing tandem in the right scheme.
Oh my gosh,
if you
right.
actually combine the two of them.
I want to see Hooker in that true, single high center field free. I think he's really good in that role. He had to play a lot more 2 high stuff with the Colts. Interior offensive line is a little weaker here. So you have a guy like Brandon Scherf for the football team who makes the top 100 at number 9. And I think he'll be coveted along with Joe Thuney, the other top 15 guard. We put him at 14, but there's not a whole lot of other guards or centers. Corey Linsley is the top center for the Packers. Those 3 players, Brandon Scherf, Joe Thuney, Corey Linsley, if you need offensive line help on the interior, it gets a lot sketchier once you get past those guys. Linsley is number 26 for us on
and
this
Linsley's
list.
really intriguing because the gap between him and the next best center this season has been one of the biggest gaps between the number 1, number 2 players at any position in the NFL. He's allowed, I think, 2 pressures all season long.
Yeah.
2. Now, centers don't allow a lot of pressure anyway, but still, 2 pressures over a season when you've got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback is quite an achievement. And he's been run blocking extremely well as well. He's only 29, I think. Center's one of those positions where sometimes teams just can't get it right. It's a problem area, and you spend the next 6-7 years trying to find a center who can just hold his head above water. If you're one of those teams that struggled, and there's a few of them out there, you could just immediately fix that right and get an all-pro player in Linsley.
Go get Corey Linsley. Let's talk about the quarterbacks for a second. We mentioned Dak, if he hits free agency, is the top guy, right? Last year at this time, Dak was technically a free agent. Tom Brady was a free agent. I never thought I'd see the day that he actually hit free agency. Yeah. Drew Brees was technically a free agent for a minute. Phillip Rivers, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill was a free agent. There was way more. Jameis, and there's some of them are coming back. But there was way more starting caliber quarterbacks, and last year got hectic. This year you have Dak. You have Phillip Rivers, who it feels like it's either let's sign another 1-year deal with the Colts, or does he explore other places? Does he go to New England for a year or Denver for a year? Who knows? But Rivers, I think, is the second option. You have a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is playing. His last 3 seasons are his highest graded seasons of his career. Okay?
Yeah.
And he's almost our age, Sam. God. So Fitzpatrick, and then you still have Jameis Winston out there. You have Cam Newton and Andy Dalton out there, 2 guys who people may have soured on this year for various reasons based off how they played. And but they're all free agents. Tyrod Taylor, Mitchell Trubisky, Jacoby Brissett. So there's a lot of backup caliber quarterback talent, and then maybe some low-end starters.
Yeah. Trubisky, assuming he didn't play his way into a contract extension with the Bears, which is
true. We'll see.
I agree. I don't think this is a great year for finding starting caliber quarterbacks. At least, you would have to have a young quarterback who needs a kick up the ass in terms of a Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in to make you worry about your job. But there's no one. Phillip Rivers is the only one there where you can say, yeah, we're comfortable plugging this guy right in for 2021 as our starter and thinking we can achieve something. Everybody else is we're in a crappy situation. We need something, and let's hope this works out.
That's the most attractive Phillip Rivers destinations are going to be something like the Colts, where it's I know you're an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
And that's why if Denver was to take a shot on him, they'd say, we know you're an upgrade from Drew Lock. Right. And other than that, it's okay, can you find a Phillip Rivers caliber quarterback? A lot of teams already have a Phillip Rivers caliber quarterback. He was a mid-tier quarterback for us each of the last 2 years. I want to finish up talking about cornerback because this is another interesting class, and it's an important one because you got to stop the pass in today's NFL. And we have a bunch of guys who make the top 100 just off positional value alone. There's going to be about 15 or 20 guys in the top 100. including William Jackson, who's our top guy. And again, all of these guys come with question marks.
Yeah.
And some of them are slot corners, and some of them are getting old. William Jackson and Richard Sherman are the only two who make the top 20, but there's a bunch of guys making the top 100. What do you make of these corners?
You're right. There's various question marks about everybody in this group, but there's some really intriguing players because of that. You go all the way down to the 60s, and you get a guy like Jason Verrett, who he's played like 2,000 snaps in his career, 800 of which came this year, but his talent is undeniable and unquestioned. Like, he is a top-tier cornerback when he's healthy, but he's gone on this absurd run of not being able to stay healthy. And this year, like, the 49ers were finally paid off for the gamble that they'd taken on him for like the last few seasons of, well, sure, I mean, if we get Jason Verrett, if he finally stays healthy, we get a starting cornerback for nothing. They did. They got it this year. And then, ironically, Richard Sherman missed most of the season, so they couldn't, like, profit really off it. But, like, Jason Verrett, if he has finally got injuries in his past, even if they've taken a little bit of something off his game, like, this year was good. It wasn't as good as he had his last healthy season.
2015, by the way.
Right, which is a hell of a long time ago. So even if you say that, yeah, he's lost something, he's not what he once was, he's still good. And you could get that, that kind of production for not an awful lot. And then,
by the way, we need like our biggest fans to go back and get all of our Jason Verrett free agent takes from like the last 5 years, because we've probably said the same thing. Like, take a shot on him. 5 years later, it paid off, as you mentioned, for the Niners.
Which is a gamble worth taking. Yeah. If you get to take this guy, he gets injured, you stash him on IR. Okay, I mean, what did it cost you? Now you actually get the payoff, which is a really good season from a cornerback, which is absurdly valuable. A guy like Xavier Rhodes looked like he was toast in Minnesota, and it turned out that actually he was just playing injured and being hung out to dry. And when you let the guy get healthy, he can have a really good season again. So there's starting caliber players deep into this group. It's just that there's huge risk attached to almost all of them.
I want to talk about Ronald Darby too. He's another guy who's had like 3 out of 5 years have been really, really good, or 4 out of 6, whatever it is. He's been really good, outside corner, and every year we tell teams, sign Ronald Darby. And then last year he was terrible for the Eagles, hits free agency again, and he's the highest graded corner on the football team right now. So he is part of the reason why Washington has one of the best defenses in the league. When you pair it with that pass rush, Darby's been really good covering on the outside. So he hits free agency once again. You have Richard Sherman, as I mentioned, out there. What does he still have left in the tank at this point? You have some really intriguing slot corners like a Desmond King, who's playing this weekend for the Titans, Mike Hilton for the Steelers. Again, guys who are going to play this weekend and fill specific roles on the defense. And then, Patrick Peterson also hits free agency, a guy who's looked nothing like the first 10 years of his career where he was awesome. The last 2 years have been pretty poor, and he ends up at 71 on the top 100. So it's an intriguing free agent class, probably not as strong as last year, but we're going to talk it up anyway because we want you guys to follow all of our free agent coverage. It's going to be awesome.